I'm Erin O'Byrne and welcome to Everything EFL podcast. I'm passionate about serving teachers and I offer training for schools and institutions whose language teachers need a little refresher, a change of mindset and some super practical ideas to put into their classrooms straight away. There is no one-size-fits-all lesson plan, but you've got a friend and support system in me. I can help reduce your overwhelm, give you some teacher inspiration, and improve your work-life balance. How? With some solid advice, takeaways you can try out immediately, and some much-needed teacher love, because your well-being is important too. Are you ready to make small changes one step at a time and remember how amazing you are? Let's go! Hello, you gorgeous teacher. If you're one of my lovely regular listeners, welcome back. If you're brand new to Everything EFL podcast, you are most welcome, and I hope you stick around. Today, I want to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart, as I always try to deliver the best quality professional development sessions that I possibly can. And, I'm still learning, and I'm really going to hone my skills this summer so that when I deliver my own sessions in September, my 6-week course that I'll tell you about later, I am going to do the best job I possibly can. So really, I need to practice what I preach, don't I? Are you disappointed by the CPD that you have received in the past? I put this question to the social medias and some of the answers I got were fairly interesting. I said, what makes a bad CPD session? And Sam Solomonovich, I do apologise for massacring your name, thinks that a bad CPD session is too corporate, which is a very interesting way of putting it, that it's very sort of top down, everything's coming from the top and there's no room for creativity or input, and I think there's nothing worse than that. You need time to breathe and to share ideas. Just because someone's in there conducting the session or leading the session, it doesn't mean the teachers can't contribute. Where's the space for that? And also, there's nothing worse than just being spoken at for an hour or 2 hours. I think we've all been through that. And, not only is it, I think, quite offensive and patronising, it's actually really boring. And to echo that, Kathy Strover said death by PowerPoint instead of, and just being spoken at instead of being able to talk. And again, leaving space for discussion, questions, conversation throughout, even if it is fairly PowerPoint-led, where's the space for the teachers again? I am myself definitely guilty of this in the past in teacher training sessions, and basically the more slides you have, the more information is on there. And I think that can be very overwhelming for the teachers as well. Stick to a few concepts. If you're going to suggest a few tips and tricks and, like tasks and activities, great, but limit it, because at the end of the day, mindset, approaches and strategies I think are more important than here are 23 million games to practice vocabulary. Teachers can do a little bit of research on that themselves, and like I said, they can share their own ideas. It doesn't all have to be on a PowerPoint slide. And also, where's the time and space to implement and reflect on these ideas? How are we practically going to implement these things into your class? And Dan says a lot of the CPD sessions she has been to have not always been useful, and they frequently just point out ideas and techniques that we already use, and it can feel like a waste of time. And I think a lot of CPD sessions possibly are geared towards maybe less experienced teachers, not always. It can be a difficult balance because you need to go over the basics and make sure everybody's on the same page. Like, for example, this week with my teachers, I have some with 30 years experience and some with 2 years experience. So cover the basics. And then can you give something a little bit more elevated, a little bit higher that the other teachers, the more experienced teachers, are going to get something from? So, for example, we talked about listening today and we went through the basic stages, and then I talked about input flooding and languages modelling and things like that. Adding to that, long monologues by the trainer. You have to pepper it with questions, little activities, and even a brain break. If you're doing a long session, a brain break is actually a really good idea because, people need the toilet, people just need to chill out. I just think it's a nice idea. And if you're doing a series of sessions, it's also a good idea to do a brain dump. We did one this morning. It's Thursday. We had a couple of fairly heavy sessions. We did writing, and then we did listening over the course of 2 days. It was quite a bit of information. So we started off this morning with 4 minutes, open your notebook. I put on some hippy-dippy meditation music, and they just wrote down everything that they remember from the day before, including, what they had for breakfast, what they did in the session, what they had for dinner, anything at all, just to empty the working memory a little bit and free up some space to go again. Carla Kerr says, sometimes it's a box-ticking exercise agreed by people who don't actually know what they're doing. I'm going to assume that's management. I'm not too sure. Or owners trying to adhere to the policies of accreditation of the organisation that they're affiliated with. You know, you have to do a certain number of CPD sessions every year, so let's just do A, B and C. I think a lot of academic managements or senior teachers take on this role of teacher trainer to fulfill this number of required sessions. But, you know, have they consulted the teachers? Have they done observations and done a needs analysis from that? I don't know. I think most CPD sessions are obligatory. So if the teacher is kind of forced to go, maybe the motivation isn't there in the first place. You know, and that's going to cause a little bit of negative feeling, especially when previous sessions have been less than inspirational. And I think the biggest thing that's missing, like I said, is time and space for teachers. It's tempting as a trainer to try and throw everything you can, even if all your ideas are amazing, but there's only a certain amount teachers can take in, just like their students, especially with everything else they have on their plate. And again, they need time and reflection to really think about how they're going to implement it. I'm quite sure that if something was interesting, teachers would want to try it out, but sometimes, just speaking from personal experience, you tend to forget. So how about a new approach? How about less is more? It's a good rule for when you're planning for the class, so why not make it the same for teacher training? You might have so many ideas, but you really have to sort of strip it down, pare it back, and figure out what is absolutely essential. How do we do that? Well, I think it starts with needs analysis. And I'm really wondering how many CPD sessions are chosen at random without the consultation of the teachers. I would also say a bad CPD session is using tons of terminology. Keeping it simple, I think, is, it's essential. I don't think trying to sound particularly clever is that effective. I mean, I don't know about you, but my headspace is very limited. So I want to speak in a more conversational tone so my teachers can just easily digest what I'm saying. Sometimes it's nice to have a little session where there are 5 or 6 activities, but how about approaches and strategies? For example, the lexical approach, or, mindfulness, bringing that into the classroom, or building community. I think this kind of thing is becoming more of a thing now, but I do think these things need to be incorporated more rather than just reading again, listening again. And again, comes down to needs analysis. If your students don't really talk much, what's the point of just going, hey, here are 6 different speaking activities you can do, because that's not going to make your students talk. How do we make them talk? Can we get to the root of that? If you're doing a series of sessions, is there room for a little bit of revision? Even if it's just sort of, what were your top 3 takeaways on the last session? Can you tell your partner one thing you learn and you think you'll implement straight away in your next lesson? I'm also not a fan of giving teachers more work to do. So if you have these amazing ideas and it's going to take your teachers extra time to prepare, perhaps it's not the best session, it's not the best idea. CPD needs to be, about reducing or not adding to prep time, which is why looking at approaches and strategies is a good one rather than here are a bunch of activities. Look, I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm not one for negativity, but I just some food for thought, especially if you are a teacher trainer. And speaking of teacher training, I am almost ready to launch my own course, Methods and Mindset, which I'm very excited about. It's going to be probably around the 3rd week of September. Keep your eyes peeled for more information on that. You can always ask me about it. You can DM me or you can send me an email. All my social media and my email details are below. I promise you that my sessions will be none of the terrible things that I've talked about. I have a clear vision and it's based on many conversations with teachers, years of knowing what teachers need and what they struggle with, and I cannot wait to share it with you. I'm going to open a waiting list soon. And if you join that, you will be able to get the course at the reduced price that my newsletter community get it at. Just so you know, I'll keep you posted on any progress there is. And in the meantime, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed to Everything EFL. So I'd love to hear from you about your experiences with good CPD and bad CPD. Like, how often do you do it? Do you think it's enough? Is the quality good? Who organises it? Also, my link to my Breathe Easy Teacher newsletter is in the show notes. This is just a twice-monthly letter in between the release of my podcast, just to give you a little hug, to remind you how amazing you are, and it will always include some kind of easy tip or advice that you can use, that you can implement straight away in your class. So as per usual, my darling gorgeous teacher, look after yourself, be kind to yourself, have a lovely week, and share the love. Bye!